Hello, I'm Ollie and this is CriminOlly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today I want to talk to you about my favourite horror novel of 2023 so far, How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. So this is my favourite horror novel that's come out in 2023, and also my favourite horror novel that I've read so far in 2023. I mean, obviously it's only middle of Feb, so we're only 6 weeks into the year, but still, this is a fantastic book. And if it doesn't end up on my year-end top 10 list, I will be very surprised. I really had a good time with this book. So I read it as a buddy read with Mariah, one of my patrons. If you've never done a buddy read, I really recommend them. So it's a really fun way to read a book and just be able to bounce ideas and reactions and things like that off somebody else. So like a book group, but just two of you basically. A lot of fun. So Mariah and I had a really good time reading this book, and it's just hugely entertaining. Grady Hendrix is an author who I think really gets horror, and always does a good job with the horror stories he's telling, but also just gets storytelling. He's just a good storyteller, and this book feels incredibly kind of well thought through and polished as a result, and it is just pure entertainment from beginning to end. So it's about a woman called Louise who's kind of escaped her southern roots and moved to the big city and has a pretty successful life there, and has a young daughter, but her parents die. And she has to go home to her hometown of Charleston in South Carolina to deal with the aftermath of their death and sort out the funeral and stuff like that. And fairly early on, it becomes apparent, well, two things become apparent. One, she's got a very fractious relationship with her brother, Mark. And secondly, her parents' house has got some weird stuff going on in it. So her mother was a collector of like dolls and puppets, and the house is just full of them. And there are, creaky goings on in the attic and things like that as well. And what Grady Hendrix does is wrap a load of different tropes together. So there is nothing in this book that is particularly original, I would say. So you've got like classic haunted house tropes, like footsteps in the attic and things like that. You've got a lot of tropes around, kind of family dramas and things like that. So, this concept of the sibling who's got away and made a success of their lives, returning home to, their hometown and dealing with all of their relatives. And then, Mark, Louise's brother, is, a bit of a waster. He's never made anything of his life. He's bounced from one bar job to another. So that again is kind of a trope we've seen again and again and again, but it's one that works. It's one that's satisfying. And then you've got all this stuff around creepy puppets as well, which I won't go into too much because I don't want to spoil the book. But there is a character in this book who is just fantastic, just a fantastic horror character. And I would be very surprised if How to Sell a Haunted House doesn't get turned into a movie. Because this character, the whole book is good, but this one particular character who is the kind of centre of the horror, if you like, in the book, is just fantastic, and I think would make a great movie character. And I can see this becoming a franchise. I can see this becoming a really successful horror movie franchise based around this one character. So yeah, it's just all really well done. So you've got some fantastic character work. So Louise and Mark in particular are really well drawn characters, and both do develop as the book progresses in a satisfying and interesting way. You've got their extended family as well, of mostly made up of kind of aunts of various ages who are very amusing at times, but also just give the book a bit of structure and help Mark and Louise to gradually unravel the mystery of what's going on. The southern setting feels very natural. It's got a nice, the book has got kind of a nice sense of place as well. So that worked well. And the horror elements work extremely well. So I think Hendrix has, he's always been good at writing horror, and he's always been good at writing set pieces. So when I think of some of his other books, like My Best Friend's Exorcism, there were some really good set pieces in that. This book has phenomenal set pieces in. There's at least 3 I can think of off the top of my head. And I won't tell you what they are because it would spoil the book, but that would just completely grip me. One of them, which is kind of the first real scene of horror in the book, my jaw was hanging open at how cringingly horrible it was. So he really does a good job of that. So he manages to construct a book which is completely satisfying. It's scary at times, it's exciting at times, it's very funny at times. Some of the dialogue is really amusing, and it's also really quite moving. So as the book progresses and you learn more about these characters and their relationships and things like that, it becomes quite a sweet and moving story. Everything about this book just works. And like I say, I think Hendrix is a writer who just really gets how to tell a story. And, he's not doing anything particularly original here, but he weaves everything together beautifully. And it works fantastically well as a result. What I should say as well is I actually listened to this as an audiobook, which I don't normally do. I very rarely listen to audiobooks. But I had a fantastic time with it. The audiobook narration, which is there's 2 narrators for the audiobook, for reasons that become obvious when you listen to it, or would be obvious if you read the book as well. You'd figure out why they used to. But they both do a really good job, and it just really sucked me in and really immersed me, and I very much enjoyed the experience of listening to an audiobook, which, as I say, isn't something I normally do because I was able to do other stuff around the house. I read or listened to the whole book over a weekend, and was able to get on with chores and things like that while I was listening to it. So it was just a really fun experience, and as I say, the experience of buddy reading it as well was fantastic. So if you've never done a buddy read, definitely try one out. And if you want to hop on my Discord server, people organise buddy reads between themselves on there all the time. So it's a good way to. Discord is a great way to meet other readers and talk to other readers and other people who watch the channel. Often people have similar taste in books, and buddy reads kind of spring up as a result. So yeah, How to Sell a Haunted House, definitely my favourite horror novel so far of this year. I really recommend it. And yeah, it was just a hell of a good time. Okay, time for a random book from the shelves. Maybe not so random because it's another Grady Hendrix book. So this is We Sold Our Souls, which is about a heavy metal band who've kind of split up and then get back together again, and there's kind of devil worship stuff woven into it. So again, a book where Hendrix takes tropes that and weaves them together really successfully. I think that's his kind of superpower, is doing that, is making old tropes feel fresh again, and he consistently does a really good job of it. So I hope you found that interesting. Let me know if you've read How to Sell a Haunted House. I know there are a lot of people at the moment who are reading and enjoying it. A lot of people have commented on other videos where I've mentioned it and said they're having a good time with it. So yeah, let me know what you thought of it. And as always, thanks very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.